Okay, match number 2. You might notice we are in the replay game functionality again. That's because we're going to be doing this a second match. Not because the video is messed up this time, but because the match lasted way too long, and I didn't do very good commentary toward the end because I was running out of time on my clock. This match ended, spoiler alert, with 8 seconds on my clock and 23 seconds on my opponent's clock. So it did not end due to time. The game ended normally. There was a clear winner at the very end. It was clear who would win if everyone had more time left on their clock, but the game lasted too long. Also, we're playing against the same exact person we did before, against the same exact deck. So, match 2 against Erskine. Let's see how it goes. Alright, right off the bat, we've got a keepable hand. Counterspell is going to be online reasonably early. We can choose whether we want turn 2 Counterspell or turn 3 Rats. And as you can see, as we develop early, we go with the turn 3 Rats, because Counterspell is better later whenever we can Counterspell a Mulldrifter. Our opponent has to mulligan. We lead with Baron Moor so that we can do that Chittering Rats turn 3 play. We just play a tap land because we can't hold open Chain Edict at instant speed because it's a sorcery. And we go ahead and play our Rat. They crack for a red mana and get a Firebolt. Play a Tower, their first Tron piece available. We have nothing that we can do in our turn. We decided to counterspell this for tempo here. As you can see, we had nothing else going on in our turn. We had nothing else we could do the next turn even. So we're just hoping to draw something good, hopefully a Mulldrifter, or maybe like a Seagate Oracle into a Preordain or something like that. So in order to keep our mana available, we decided to go ahead and counterspell there while we had the mana up to do it. And also, since they mulliganed and we already hit them with a Chittering Rat, it was good to deny them the draw there from the Seagate Oracle. So we do draw the Seagate Oracle that we wanted to. And we have a choice between a Disfigure and an Archaeomancer. Our hand's already full of removal, so we're obviously going to choose the Archaeomancer. Play a land, hold up in Doomblade. Seagate Oracle comes down. And we do decide to Doomblade this just because it makes our Chainer's Edict so much better. It's not like we're wasting this as removal against an Ulamog's Crusher or a Fangren if it makes our 2 Chainer's Edicts hit the Ulamogs and the Fangren when we need them to. They play a second Haunted Fengraf. We start with Preordain, get rid of both of these cards, draw a Disfigure anyway, and pass a turn because we don't have Archaeomancer available since we don't have double blue. We decide to Ghostly Flicker Seagate Oracle just to draw a card, and we can get back our Ghostly Flicker with the Archaeomancer later. So on this turn, we can play either Chittering Rats and hold open maybe a Disfigure, or we can play Archaeomancer. We decide to make use of our blue mana while we have it and play Archaeomancer. And at that point, we can get back Ghostly Flicker and set up a great turn next turn where we play Chittering Rats and Ghostly Flicker on Archaeomancer and Chittering Rats. They hit us with a Chainer's Edict, so we go ahead and get rid of our Seagate Oracle, which is not nearly as important. And they crack their map to play a Power Plant and another map, so we know they're going to have Tron soon, finally. We go ahead and go with the Chittering Rats and then Ghostly Flicker the Chittering Rats. Oh, okay, we're going to hold open Ghostly Flicker. I thought we did it on our turn. And they go with Ulamog's Crusher. So we Ghostly Flicker in response, deny them another card draw, get the Ghostly Flicker yet again, and on our turn we want a Chainer's Edict and then Ghostly Flicker. And just keep on denying them cards. The best part about this here is because we have 8 mana, we drew an untapped land, so we get the Chainer's Edict, Ghostly Flicker again, put them at 0 cards in hand. They draw whichever of the 2 cards in their hand they want, and they can play that or they can crack their Haunted Fengraf, but it reduces the cards they draw in their number of decisions. Our clock is quite slow, but we appear to have control. So we're pretty close to locking our opponent out of the game. They play a Mulldrifter, which was one of their 2 cards left in hand, unfortunately. And Flashback Deep Analysis and pass the turn. We get that Mulldrifter out of the way and attack, and hold open Ghostly Flicker. They flash back their own Chainer's Edict. We decide to Ghostly Flicker in response so that we can get back our counterspell this, and keep our creatures on the battlefield so we can keep on beating down and try to kill them. We draw a Mulldrifter, thankfully, And we tap as little blue mana as possible so we can double counterspell if we draw island and counterspell. Preordain, both the lands go away. Seagate Oracle. And here we have a choice between Unearth and Ghostly Flicker. Ghostly Flicker has very high upside if our creatures stick around. Obviously, it's pretty bad if our creatures get wiped due to a Rolling Thunder. But Unearth isn't that great if we get Rolling Thundered. We can get back a Chittering Rats or a Seagate Oracle and hope to try to rebuild our board from there, but I decided to go with the Ghostly Flicker option. Opponent falls down to 5, and we have 6 power on the board. They have a Firebolt they can flash back, though. And then they Rolling Thunder us and take out everything except for Seagate Oracle. We preordain into a counterspell. Ghostly Flicker just to draw a card. And have a choice between Dismal Backwater and a Doomblade, so we obviously take the removal. Pass a turn with a single counterspell to back us up. There's a Fangor Marauder, we're fine with letting that resolve, it just dies to Doomblade. Ancient Stirrings finds a tower, and we Doomblade this on our end step, take them down to 3 with our attack. Seagate Oracle finds a Dimir Aqueduct or a Chainer's Edict. Now here's a place where I almost made the wrong decision, but I noticed I've got bounce lands, and they have synergy with Dimir Aqueducts. If I play these early and then need them a card later, I can do what I'm going to do here, which is pick up the cycle land and cycle it for a card. I find a Muldrifter, so I definitely get paid off there, but I decide not to cast it yet because I want to hold up and counterspell. Fangor Marauder, Muldrifter, and I get to counter it. No life gain from the Fangren. So we start with casting Muldrifter, I believe. Let's see what I do first. Yeah, there's the Muldrifter. I wanted to be able to cast double counterspell. Chainer's Edict. I don't draw a second counterspell, though, so it doesn't matter. Don't have enough mana to cast Arcumancer and counterspell, so I just hold up and counterspell. They crack the Haunted Fengraf twice and get back nothing. And that's game 1, and we win. Alright, game number 2. Alright, so this hand is very close to keepable. We could go turn 1, Backwater, turn 2, Preordain, Swamp. The unfortunate part is the Chainer's Edicts and the Disfigure are not good early. We want that removal late so that we can get rid of the big threats. What we want early is lands and counterspells for the Muldrifters that could come out as early as turn 3 with the Tron. And we get the exact same hand again, roughly, minus the Dismal Backwater, which is awful. So we ship it again, and we get this hand which is kind of bad, but probably comparable to the first hand. And I put a Hydroblast on the bottom, because I don't have time for that. I go ahead and counterspell this Seagate Oracle here, just because I have nothing else going on for me. They don't only have 1 Tron piece, so hopefully it'll stop them from developing Tron if I'm able to counter the card draw. I play a Rats, they play a Prism. They find their Swiftwater Cliffs. I play Arcumancer because I have nothing else to do on my turn. They see this counterspell coming, but it's still good. Second Tron piece into Muldrifter, unfortunately, before I have my counterspell available again. They go up to 5 cards in hand. I preordain, looking for lands, so I keep the land and I keep the exclude, so that I can play that Muldrifter as soon as possible. Trade off our Muldrifters, or our 2/2 with their Muldrifter. They play an Ancient Stirrings that finds a tower, so we know they're going to have Tron soon. And we get to take this turn to either hold up and counterspell exclude or play Muldrifter. And the reasoning here, it's actually sort of a close decision, but not really, is that our opponent can just sit around doing absolutely nothing if they want to, and they're going to get farther and farther ahead because they're going to be building up mana much faster than us due to Tron, and they're also going to be drawing toward their Rolling Thunders and Carevex Torches. So I need to try to have some initiative and end the game, so I decided to play the Muldrifter first and hold up the counterspells later. Opponent resolves a Relic. Then a Fangren. I decided to cycle this Lonely Sandbar, trying to look for removal, so I can play the removal and also hold up and counterspell, and I get very lucky to have removal right on top of my deck. They get their Fangren back from the Haunted Fengraf, and we get to exclude a Muldrifter. Then they pulse back their Muldrifter. So we know they have a Muldrifter and a Fangren in hand. We Chittering Rats them to try to keep their hand under control and hold up and counterspell for that Muldrifter. We let the Fangren resolve, even though we don't have removal for it because we're very scared of the Mole Drifter. And our opponent very intelligently decides not to cast Mole Drifter there since we're very obviously holding open counter magic. We don't really have any good choices here. Archaeomancer looks like a good play for Chainer's Edict. However, they can just crack the Relic in response and then we don't get anything back out of it. And even if they did let us have the Chainer's Edict, we couldn't cast it and also hold open the counterspell for that Mole Drifter in hand. So we decided to Seagate Oracle instead. So we have the choice between a very slow Seagate Oracle or the Doomblade, which we very much need. So we'll probably just take 5 from this Fangren once, holding open these two. They'll refuse to cast the Mole Drifter again because they know we still have counter magic because we got it from the Archaeomancer that one time. And then we get the Doomblade on their end step. Attack in the air. There's the Mole Drifter. And why are they going for it now when they didn't go for it last turn? Because they have that Dispel right there. So they get to use that to protect their Mole Drifter from counterspell. There's the Mole Drifter. They pulse back another Mole Drifter. So now they have another one in hand and they still have the Haunted Fengraf on the table. They cast that Mole Drifter in hand because they have a ton of mana. We Archaeomancer to get back our counterspell. We can't really control the board right now, so we decide just to hold up in counterspell and hope things don't get any worse. Take our 2 damage in the air. And get rid of the 5/5. Resolve our Mole Drifter, keep our counterspell open at all times. Play a Disfigure so we can get in for damage. And then hold open counterspell too. So here we didn't really want to Disfigure the Mole Drifter because Haunted Fengraf was kind of bad at that moment since it could only get back Oracle or Fangren Marauder. But for the tempo of being able to attack with 7 damage, I decided it was necessary to play the Disfigure. So on this turn we get to counterspell that Mole Drifter. And then unfortunately we get Rolling Thundered. And all of our creatures go away. And we waste some more time in this match trying to pretend like we can come back and win, but they're at 15 life. And they're just going to do a much better job of being able to maintain and to redevelop the board state than we are. We pick off this Crusher. Find ourselves a Rat. They crack their Relic looking for cards. Play another Relic, but don't crack that one for some reason. Play an Oracle. Play a Quicksand, which I fail to notice. I Chainers and immediately flash it back so we can't get hit by the Relic. I attack and I trade my Children Rats with a Quicksand that I really shouldn't have done, but I wasn't paying enough attention. They get to Deep Analysis and flash it back. And at that point, we just concede because they have too many cards in hand. This one Seagate Oracle is not going to go all the way. And we just want to save some time on our clock for the next match. Alright, it's game 3. So this first hand is obviously not capable. All we have is a bounce land that can't be played. And here, this hand is not really exciting, but we decide to keep it anyway because we don't want to go down to 5. We get rid of the Relic because we don't have time to do that. So with this Preordain, we obviously don't have time for Ghostly Flicker right now, but we also don't have time for Relic either, so we put them both on the bottom. Play our bounce land. This turn we play our Radiant Fountain so we can go ahead and play our Seagate Oracle. And they crack their Expedition map and find their 3rd Tron piece. We get to attack and hold open Doomblade, which is convenient because they play a Crusher. We decide to play Seagate Oracle and save our counterspell, but we draw an untapped island so we get to do the counterspell too if we want to. They go for Mole Drifter, which we get to counterspell, which is great. And they follow up with Seagate Oracle. So we Chainers the Seagate Oracle out of the way, attack for 2. Don't have really anything going on. Our opponent has 5 cards in hand. And they get to draw 2 more with Mole Drifter. Get that out of the way, and we Preordain. There we saw a Dismal Backwater, or a bounce land, a Dimir Aqueduct, and a Mole Drifter, so obviously we put the Mole Drifter on top, get to play it. and attack. Opponent goes Sphere into Fangren Marauder, Relic of Progenitus, and Prophetic Prism. So we get the 5/5 out of the way. Play our Muldrifter. Should have done that in the opposite order, but we knew we were probably playing Chainers anyway. And they get to play a Crusher, and they also Pulse of Marasa back a Fangren Marauder. So they're at 17 life, they have a Fangren Marauder in hand, they have an active Relic. So this is where things start getting really interesting. We'd like to hold up and exclude if we can. We'd like to play Chittering Rats if we can, but that's a little bit of a slow play. What do we have in our graveyard to get back to get Archaeomancer? We could go get a Chainer's Edict, Doomblade, Preordained, Counterspell, Doomblade. We have a lot of different options. So here what we decided to do is, instead of playing Archaeomancer and targeting something and then them having the potential of cracking the Relic in response, we just play the Chainer's Edict. Since it's sorcery speed, we can have it on the stack before they get the chance to crack this Relic of Progenitus. They would have had to do it before our main phase if they wanted to. So there it goes. We unfortunately have to tap out to do that, but we at least get to use our Chainers before it's exiled. They flashback Deep Analysis, play Fangren, gain 5 life, and then gain 10 life with the second artifact that they crack, and play a Seagate Oracle. Again, we have an interesting turn. Our graveyard is full of stuff we can get back, however it can be exiled by Prophetic Prism. We decide to play the Chittering Rats and just attack in the air for now. Okay, I misspoke. It seems I was trying to get them to go ahead and crack this Prophetic Prism, so I played the Archaeomancer and targeted Doomblade. As you can see, that fails to work. They decide to keep their Relic of Progenitus anyway, and I get to draw the Doomblade back to my hand. Here they tap out for a Rolling Thunder after much consideration, and we completely blow them out with Hydroblast. Here's the point where I point out where I have 24 seconds on my clock, and our opponent has a minute 46, so it's getting very down to the wire here. Boop, Hydroblast, I get to keep all my creatures. They stay back to block. I get to go Doomblade into 1 mana shy of being able to flash back the Chainer's Edict, and I attack. They Firebolt my Muldrifter, and I'm so scared for time that I've F6, so I don't get to Hydroblast that Firebolt. But I do un-F6 so I can Hydroblast it when they flash back the Firebolt, because I need to keep all my creatures around to attack with. However, they play a Muldrifter instead of flashing back the Firebolt, so I go ahead and get to exclude that. And draw another Hydroblast. At this point, they crack the Relic of Progenitus, looking for something, anything to save them. Play their tower, 3 cards in hand, and then they concede. With us at 8 seconds on our clock and them at 26 seconds on their clock. So we definitely were playing really, really fast toward the end, but I believe even if we had infinite time, the match probably would have ended the same way. So now we're 1-1 against Erskine and against his Temur Tron deck, and we're on to the next 3 matches.